Wanted, young men to rebuild Western civilization. Must be unafraid of pain, blisters, intellectual rigor, and a lifetime of long shifts with swords and shovels, digging ditches, repelling invaders, and reading stacks of books taller than their fathers. Must be impervious to manipulative women of all sorts, giggling virgins, cyber skanks, and even full cauldrons of Karens or hand-wringing clergy, but always seeking to hear and heed the words of Lady Wisdom. Immune to the leadership of hypocrites and LARPing online masculinitods, unaffected by abusive authorities, petty professors, and all brokers of official respectability. Willing to hoist the Jolly Roger and Johnny Cash's favorite finger whenever faced with idolatry. Long-suffering joy and determination required. Must be willing to dwell among the tombs and graves of the long dead, seeking truths that cannot die. Exhaustion guaranteed. Conflict guaranteed. Mortality guaranteed. New St. Andrews College. Liberal arts for the undaunted.
Hey y'all, welcome to CrossPolitic on the Fight Laugh Feast Network.
Where's Toby?
Pastor Toby's coming.
Are you sure?
He's coming. He's a pastor first, so we gotta take care of his pastor things. Oh, he says 4:30 like usual. He texted us 4:30 like usual.
4:30 like usual.
I don't know about that. It's Tuesday.
He's 6 minutes. Well, he'll be here. Pastor Toby will be here in 6 minutes.
Yeah. Talk Knocks, I'm the water boy, and we got Bubu. He's the bishop in Poland and Europe. And San Sanych, he's the ninja pastor, gangster pastor in Ukraine in the CREC. Is that right? Is that right? Gangster pastor?
No, I was gangster before I joined CREC.
Right, but now you're a pastor and a gangster.
Now he's a mobster.
Mobster. Well, you look like you have the mobster mentality all over you.
He looks like he has the Godfather.
I'm just not going to look that way.
I'll do everything for you.
I'm just not going to look that way.
Go get me some coffee and I'll take care of you, if you know what I'm saying. Was that not good?
Yeah.
Hey, y'all, did you know that optimizing both body and mind will support spiritual growth and can help strengthen the foundations of church, family, and community? It's easy for both the hardcore gym rats and the chair-bound book lover to miss the holistic nature found in the wellness of the body, mind, and soul. At Mount Athos Performance, we understand that true health integrates physical, mental, and spiritual excellence. Our product line is crafted with purity and sustainability and is designed to fuel your active lifestyle while pursuing excellence. Ascend the mountains with Mount Athos Performance. Go to athosperform.com/FLF. That's Fight Laugh Feast. athosperform.com/FLF. And put in the code FLF25. Let them know that you're there. You get a discount on that and everything. And let them know you came from us. FLF25. Also, if you're a fan of CrossPolitic or the Fight Laugh Feast Network, then surely you know that we have a merch store. Hoodies, sweaters, shirts, beanies, all that stuff. Rowdy Christian Merch is your one-stop shop for everything CrossPolitic merchandise. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, hats, but we also have specialty items like backpacks, mugs, coffee, even AirPod cases, which I have one. I actually like my AirPod case. Visit rowdychristianmerch.com. That's Rowdy, actually, visit Rowdy Christian Merch. No, it's rowdychristian.com, not Rowdy Christian Merch. Rowdychristian.com, and buy that next gift or a little something for Christmas. We actually got some Christmas stuff happening at rowdychristian.com. As you guys might have known, Knox opened the show actually talking about this a little bit.
Yes.
Bubu and San Sanych, I've known San Sanych since that St. Petersburg mission trip back in like 2009. 8. So there you go. So I've known San Sanych since 2008. Bubu, I don't think you were there when I came to St. Petersburg. But I would love to reintroduce them to you guys. We had them on the show also in 2016, just 2 months before
Pastor Toby's
President
here.
Trump
Praise God.
got elected and
Pastor,
everything.
come on
Reverend,
in, Pastor.
Reverend Bubu is the presiding minister of Huss Presbytery in Europe. So he's the bishop in Europe as well, and the CREC. Bubu's the former pastor of evangelical Reformed churches in both Poznan, and you can correct me all day, brother.
Oh, they will.
Wrocław, Poland, since 2011. He has worked as a field minister coordinator for Joint European Project. What's the website for Joint European Project? Do you remember that?
I think it's gproject.net.
Jeepproject.net. You got to
You're a pastor.
No, single P.
You're a pastor, right?
get into that
They
mic.
got microphones
Get
where
into that
you
mic.
got to.
Technically speaking, why are you asking?
I'm just because I'm wondering if they have microphones over there
speak
where
in
you're
that
at. Because
mic. Like a pastor.
usually I can
Speak in
tell.
that mic like a
but
pastor.
So this part actually takes the volume, your voice, and sends it out to everybody. So if you don't talk here, like no one hears.
It's like commanding the pulpit.
Hey, I'm so glad Pastor Toby's between the two of us because he looks like he wants to hit me right now.
So that's Boo Boo. Boo Boo, thank you for coming to the show, man. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
It's been 8 years.
San Sanych, Reverend San Sanych, to my left here, is the pastor of Reformed Church of Christ the Savior in Rivne, Ukraine. Is that close?
Rivne, Ukraine.
Rivne, CREC Church. San Sanych has labored as a pastor, missionary, seminary instructor over the course of his life, having served in, Tursky, whatever, Russia, near the Arctic Circle. San Sanych recently led and oversaw the startup of Savitalo.
Which is light.
I'm so bad.
Which is light. It's okay.
No, I'm so bad. I'm sorry. I'm not.
It's not okay.
This is not on purpose. Toby's normally the guy who's reading all this. The first Christian school in Rivne, Ukraine. San Sanych has been instrumental in collaborating with CREC and other ministers across several denominations during the recent war, assisting them ministering to their congregations and communities. Pastor San Sanych and his wife, Alla, have 2 children and currently reside in Rivne near their son, San Sanych Jr. You got a San Sanych Jr.?
Yes, and I have San Sanych youngest.
The third?
My grandson, yeah.
Praise God.
Junior.
Praise
Junior,
God,
junior.
man. Well, thank you so much. It's so good to see you again, man.
Thank you.
You guys, I love seeing you guys. It's rare, but love seeing you guys. At San Sanych, when I first met you in 2008, you were just you probably don't remember it, but just your faith and what you're doing in Ukraine was such an encouragement to me.
I remember you hit me so badly when we play football, soccer, and I just promised I will come and get you.
Y'all play soccer together?
Yeah, we did. At
play
St.
against
Petersburg,
me.
there's a grassy area we played. Yeah.
And San Sanych just still hasn't forgotten.
No.
I've forgotten.
You let Gabe win, huh?
I remember San Sanych. I met you in Houston at the CREC Council, and you were very, very sick.
And
we prayed for you. We prayed over you.
He's still sick.
The ministers, but you're still here
It's amazing.
And still sick.
and still sick.
So we were.
He had a stroke this last year. And
But I was
look
going
how
to tell that
healthy he
story.
looks.
We were sitting here pouring some libation, and he passed me the Jameson, and then he says, "I just had a stroke last year," as he's pouring Jameson, and I'm like, "Okay,
what's wrong?
yeah, okay."
What's wrong?
Does your wife know this is what you're doing?
Yes.
All right, just making
She
sure.
knows it's good for
I'm
him too.
older than 21, and my mom allowed me to drink.
You know.
He knows.
So I would love, actually, just to start, we haven't talked to you guys in quite a while, but would love to hear about what the church is doing in Poland and kind of Europe-wide and what's going on, and start with you, Boo Boo, on that.
We are just about to add 2 Norwegian churches to our
Sorry. Just eat that thing.
presbytery.
There you go. 2 new churches?
Norwegian.
No, Norway.
Norwegian churches.
Yes.
Okay.
And, well, that's it. We just closed 1 church in Belarus. And that's something that we might want to talk about because, you know what? I think that I don't think that all the people in America on the more conservative spectrum actually understand what's happening in that part of the world. And the example of the church that we had to close in Belarus might clarify a few things.
What's happening in Belarus right now?
Yeah.
So basically, we had a church in Belarus. Me and San Sanych, we visited them 6 times. Many stories we could talk about, tell you about the visits to Belarus because it's
like
it's a kind of communist version, fake Disneyland or something like this.
Okay.
But still pretty serious. Anyway, it's. If you have read any books about the churches, how they functioned in the Soviet Union, under Stalin, Khrushchev, Brezhnev, the same thing is happening in Belarus right now.
Okay.
So in the end, because the pastor of the church, he expressed some dissatisfaction about the fact that Russia attacked Ukraine. He was called by the Belarusian KGB. They still have it.
Wow.
Actually, they arrested him in street.
Well, in the end, he got arrested several times, but in the end, he had an option. Either he signs a paper, a contract with them that he will become their informant and inform on the people from his neighborhood, the church, all the other churches that he knows, or he goes to a work camp.
So it's kind of like Russell Moore, except he doesn't mind informing.
Wow, but he did. So thank God. And they said, think about this, because these are your only two options.
Wow.
Come back in a week, and you will tell us what you want to do. Thank God he and his wife had a passport at home. So the next day they came to Minsk, the capital of Belarus, got emergency visas to Poland, got on a bus, but until they crossed the border, they didn't know whether they would be let out.
Right.
Thank God the Belarusian system is not very efficient, so the passports were not red flagged yet.
Wow. Yes.
So he escaped. But after that, well, the church continued to meet in private houses, but people are just afraid.
Yeah.
People are afraid because, well, that could be the option for them as well.
Yeah.
Either work with the KGB or go to work camps.
Wow.
And work camps, these are pretty nasty places.
Yeah.
So, for real quick, so just for people who are watching and listening, if you're as ignorant as me,
That's me. Yeah.
Belarus is the nation that's just north of Ukraine,
Yeah.
and it's right next to Russia.
Yeah.
Is it contiguous with Ukraine too?
Yes.
Does it
Just
touch- it
north.
touches-
touches
yeah.
Ukraine
And touches Russia?
and touches Russia.
Oh.
Okay, so it's Ukraine, Belarus, and then Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. These are all former Soviet republics, right?
Yes.
Correct.
And, the Russians actually attacked Ukraine in 22, coming from Belarus into the Chernobyl area, which was a pretty dumb thing to do.
Right. Attacking Chernobyl.
Belarus works with Russia very closely. And, it's not just Belarus. The situation of, we have churches in Russia, right?
Yes.
Why do they keep silent about anything other than Jesus and his mother, Mary? Because they cannot do this.
Because they would be arrested.
They would,
They would
for
have
showing up here on your show, that would be it. Siberia.
Yeah.
Or working for the Russian version of the KGB.
So can I ask a question real quick? So how big was the church there?
It wasn't huge. We were talking like maybe 30 people.
So a church of 30 people
Was a threat.
and a little simple. What did he
Yes.
say exactly?
I can't recall, but
So it's undesirable organization. They didn't have a license from the Belarusian authority, and it's kind of a trick. In a way, to get a license to be registered as a church, you should be present 40 years probably.
Okay.
So if it's younger, you couldn't gather it. You
Couldn't get a
threat.
license.
Yeah.
and you also need
Or
to,
threats.
Yeah.
you also need to own a church building. But how can you own a church building if
Right.
you're not a church legally? But even if you get registered, it means that you cannot say anything that goes against the official propaganda. You cannot criticize even the shape of the mustache of the president.
Yeah.
I mean, it's paranoid.
Yeah.
But this is how it works in Belarus
So
and Russia right now.
If you were pastor in Belarus, how would you be thinking? Should the church go underground? I mean, how do you process that challenge?
I hope so. He will go to the labor camp, forced labor camp. He wouldn't sign paper to be informant of KGB.
I wouldn't, even though it means that my wife, my kids will pay the price for my courage, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like deja vu. It's like the communist times coming back, returning to us.
Deja vu, because Poland
Poland was
had this
under
pressure.
communism.
Yeah.
For 5 years, right? And this is how the churches worked, operated in the Soviet Union and in the satellite countries. For example, One of my assignments at the university was to go through a monthly journal published by one of evangelical denominations in Poland under communism in the 60s.
Yeah.
It was all about how Americans beat the black people in the streets, right?
Tell me about it.
Well, I forgot the details.
That's okay. I'll freshen you up.
It looked like it was a common thing back then. And then America had the nukes, and they were trigger happy to dump them on us, right?
Right.
So half of the content was like this.
About how Americans are bad.
In a Christian magazine.
In a Christian magazine, how America was bad,
Wow.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because they had to pay the lip service so that they could maybe possibly print the four spiritual laws instead, right?
Yeah.
1,000 copies.
Right.
That was the deal. But this you had to pay not only the lip service, you had to stay away from certain topics. For sure, you were not allowed to talk about politics in any other way. Just praise the Communist Party leader, and that's it.
And the churches in America, we already don't talk about politics. We don't need pressure.
I think we do something like that right now.
We don't even need the political pressure in our government.
Just do. Yeah.
But one more thing, it shapes your mindset, right? After you are trained like this for a generation or two, it shapes your mindset. It means that you have trust issues basically with everybody. Because also somebody can inform on
There's
you.
already an informant.
Right.
There's informants everywhere.
You don't know whom to trust. So last example, and San Sanych will talk. My father used to go to the Soviet Union and bring the Bibles there. After his 5th visit, one day, same hour, same time, our apartment and his brother's apartments were raided by the police. They were searching for illegal Christian literature. How did they know?
Yeah.
Well, one of the old ladies that received a copy of the Bible that my father brought over there obviously reported on him.
Yeah.
And it took them a week to arrange the searches across half of Poland, right? This means that people have trust.
Right.
And if you don't trust your neighbor, if you cannot trust even your wife or your brother and sister in Christ,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it affects you, how you operate, what you say. It's like the self-censorship kicks in.
That reminds me of, Jesus warned about this. He said, wife will turn against husband, mother, father, son, daughter will even turn people in thinking that they're doing service to God.
That is what happened
How long did it take you guys to plant that church there?
in Belarus.
Yes.
It's been already planted when they applied for the church membership in the CRSC.
Okay.
And it actually was started by the pastor who defected to Poland.
Yeah.
He happened to study, I think it was a Korean Presbyterian seminary in Moscow, Russia.
Oh, really?
And that's where he was exposed to John Calvin for the first time. He got fascinated with him. He returned home and said, well, this version of the gospel is so much richer than anything I have heard before.
Wow.
So then he visited Ukraine and we got acquainted with him, something like 2005,
Okay.
and build up a relationship and just I point him. So there's a best ever Reformed denomination, CREC. And,
Heard about it.
The big,
and you can join it.
Yeah.
How you guys have been to America multiple times, on and off. At least since I've known you guys in San Sanych in 2008. As you guys come here, I want to give you guys a free shot. Like, what would you say to the churches in America that we need to recognize or be doing better, or just speak freely to us?
Stop using TikTok.
stop using TikTok.
That's my gospel for you.
Knox, repent.
Not only because it makes you dumb, the content that they feed the American kids is completely different than what they feed the Chinese kids, right?
Yeah.
They spy on you. But the thing that we have learned from the war in Ukraine is that the first thing when you get stopped on the street by this military police or whatever is Give me your phone.
Russian police. I mean,
Russian, in the Russian
Or
occupied
Russian military.
territories. No, in the Ukrainian territories occupied by Russia.
Yeah.
We met a few months ago a guy who escaped from there. Interestingly, he's ethnically Russian with a Russian passport. He was born in Russia, and after a year spent under Russian occupation, he said, "That's enough for me."
Huh.
Right? Because what would they do? Two men gathering in the church building for a prayer meeting without official permission get arrested, or taken to this filtration camp, and depending on whether they will work with the KGB or not, they would be released or sent to work camps. This is the reality. But phone is the thing number one. There are these internet archives. Unlock your phone. Show me your Facebook, Instagram, everything, the content, all the chats. Right. And if they see that you have deleted something recently, there is already something suspicious. So maybe this won't be Russians who will invade you, maybe the Chinese. But I think they are even better at this.
What? So in terms of your message
with
to
all the content that you have on the internet, I think it's...
Oh, we're done.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We're already that far in. We're so deep in, bro. We're drowning.
So basically, I have no message for you.
Well, my question is also
I
like,
think-
please, San Sanych, answer that.
kind of like why I'm here. Just, I don't have a voice as usually. Ukrainians, oppressed people.
Even on CrossPolitic.
Even here, yes. And I think so. Emphasize in churches the teaching about be grateful. Grateful for what you have. Grateful for the freedom which you have. Grateful for the opportunities. Grateful for infrastructure.
Grateful for Trump.
That too.
Yeah. We're going to
I
talk about
told
that.
you that 8 years
You
ago.
might.
Yes, you
Yes,
did.
yes, you did.
Oh, I remember that. In 2016, we
talk
talked
about
to you
that.
guys in 2016, and you guys told us why Trump was so great.
Amen.
And you didn't believe us.
No.
No.
We
Absolutely
all
not.
doubted you. But I sense
I didn't doubt you. I knew your calculation was from a different country looking in versus my calculation coming from inside the country
Don't
looking
be so
out.
defensive.
So I was just explaining where. Wow.
Notice that I just repented. I just let you know. I just repented.
I'm curious, for you guys, was it, I don't know how you guys could have known that about Trump, or is it just that you saw Hillary was so bad? It's like Hillary would be so bad, not just for you guys, but for us too. But you guys saw something not just bad about Hillary, but something amazing about Trump. What was that?
I think we're just smart.
Maybe it's the collar. If I get one of those, I'll know too.
It just happened. So I was in the United States in 2008 when you have a again election.
Yep.
And then I heard how this candidate Barack Hussein Obama.
Yes.
He lied openly, and I just asked Americans just why you buy it. He never will fulfill what he is promising.
Yeah.
It's impossible. And it was Bubu's brother who lived in States. He said these people, they couldn't read in between lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
So living in the under communist oppression, we have this skill to read in between lines.
You're used to lying politicians.
Yeah, all the system.
And we just haven't figured it out that they lie.
Wow.
So what do you do in a situation like Belarus? Like, what do you do with that?
Well, all we can do is just pray for the poor people because we are not welcome in the country of Belarus anymore.
Right.
I mean, technically speaking, I could go there, but
Probably
I
you'll be
might
arrested.
never return. San Sanych would not even be let across the border. So that's it.
If American pastor went there from America, would he be let in?
It depends on the mood of President dictator Lukashenko.
I think
which-
it
in which
depends
phase
what
he is.
he would want to say about the president.
Right.
So I would like to get an update from you, San Sanych, on things in Ukraine. So we've got this invasion from Russia, and they've been bombing cities for years now. 2 years?
1,000 days.
1001 day.
1,001 day. Really? Today?
Today.
Wow.
And then they just got permission from Biden to launch American rockets into Russia.
Yes,
That's-
it's true.
So talk to us about what are things like on the ground in Ukraine.
First, I would like to begin with what I'm trying to communicate to you about gratefulness. It's hard to overestimate the help of the American nation and the CRC churches to Ukraine. And again, it's not just a figure of speech or metaphorical language. We wouldn't survive without that help.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like when Bubu brought the food,
Yeah.
salt.
Yeah.
It was
Salt.
Salt.
Yes.
We like 3 months we didn't have salt at all.
Really.
Yeah.
And this is
It's
you're talking about the CREC,
Yes.
particularly the CREC gifts.
Yes.
That
Yes.
Yeah. So there was especially with winter coming on. There was a special request that came to the
Yes.
CREC churches
Yes.
for the Ukrainian
I didn't know about
brothers
that.
and sisters.
Yeah.
And all this help which go through the Jeep, which
Yeah.
donated by the CRC churches,
Right.
helps us survive.
And no politicians get to line their pockets with any of that.
Well, actually,
Some politicians got some salt, huh? Some
no,
politicians.
some border guards took some of the stuff that I was carrying across the border.
Okay.
Some policemen wanted also a share, but that happened only on one trip.
Okay.
Other than that,
Right.
we're safe.
Right.
And, I think that this is good that you mentioned this because the closer we go to the people who actually need the help, the better.
Yes.
Right? Because we know that they get what they need and they actually get it,
Right.
and nobody gets rich.
Right.
Because a lot of the humanitarian aid that came into Ukraine from abroad was later put on the market and just sold.
Right.
Really?
That's
If it goes through the government agencies.
well, that's the concern. Though.
Hang on real quick, Boo Boo. You need to scoot closer to Toby a little bit just to get. Yeah. There we go.
There we go.
Get that mic. Yeah,
We're
there we
friends.
go.
There we go.
There we
And
go.
Keep that mic close.
Keep
to
that
your
mic
mouth.
close. Yeah.
But a lot of Americans see that and hate that corruption.
Yes.
And say stop sending stuff to Ukraine because we're just enriching, corrupt politicians. And we also assume that there are a bunch of Americans taking kickbacks too, maybe laundering money and things through Ukraine.
It's possible.
And so
I can tell about Americans.
sure, yeah, but
I can tell about Ukrainians.
yeah, right.
Wow.
But I think that's the concern. But it's really, you're right. It's a gift for us to have opportunities to give where we know that there are very, very few middlemen, and the middlemen we know and we trust, and we
Yeah.
say get the supplies to the people that need them. That's a real encouragement.
I assure you, no one grain of rice get out to somebody.
Yeah.
Everything which were purchased for the money of CRC,
Yeah.
which funneled us
yeah.
through Jeep,
Yeah.
everything get in place.
Yeah.
And so I'll begin with a correction. We talk about, you said invasion in 2022. Invasion happened in 2014.
14.
When the
Crimea, right?
Crimea.
Yeah. Crimea.
yes.
Then he tried to build a ground corridor and start invasion in Donetsk, Lugansk area.
Right.
And all these years, it was a war.
Yeah.
All these years, they bomb us. But just not all Ukraine, but this eastern part.
Okay.
You said this when we had you on via Zoom. When we
Yes.
talked to you about this, when this most recent wave began, I remember you correcting us then too, and I made the same mistake
Because,
again.
again, people forget it.
Yes,
But
right.
it was war since 2014.
Yes.
And what happened in 2016 when Trump got elected? That kind of mellowed out then.
In 2016, yes, Russian kind of were alarmed, especially after this Tomahawk rockets
missiles?
into Syria. When
Yeah.
they use chemical weapon or something, and when Ivanka Trump just convinced her father, so he should do something, and he used tomahawks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he bombed it. And after that, the Russians were just very
Russians-
much cautious. Yeah.
They eased up a bit.
And they pretend so they are not there. They just said so. This is Russian-speaking Ukrainians who fight with the Ukrainian army.
Yeah.
And they said, how they get tanks and all this sophisticated weapon? They found them in the mine.
They
Well, that's
dug
where you
them
find
up.
everything.
So, do you the way to me, the way I look at the Russia-Ukraine war, I want it to end. I want it to be done. Our politicians send millions and billions of dollars over to Ukraine, and I know they're getting money out of that. They're getting rich out of giving money to Ukraine.
You know that because you read this in the internet, or you actually caught
Because I
somebody's
don't
backhand?
trust our politicians.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
So I absolutely believe they're lining their pockets with money. So it's not something I have a fact on, although I bet I could dig and probably find it. It's something I'm highly thinking is happening. The probability is high. But regardless of what our politicians are doing, why should Ukraine be fighting Russia right now versus trying to find peace?
Peace in which condition? So Putin just claimed, yes, I agree to have a peace talk, but Ukraine should give up Kherson province, Zaporozhye province. They even has no presence there in Kherson, Zaporozhye.
He's asking for more provinces that he's not even invaded yet.
Yeah.
That's his conditions for peace.
Yes.
I think he's just, preparing for the actual peace talks. Because you always make like a higher bid, right?
Right.
So that you can have something to give up.
And you can notice it. So after the first phone call for the 3 years from German Chancellor Scholz, next day Ukraine was bombed 120 rockets and 90 Shaheds. It's the biggest since August or September, maybe.
But I think that it was rather Putin's reaction to the
Trump's
elections
promises.
in America.
Yeah.
I don't think that it had. Scholz cannot offer Russia much.
I think both.
Yeah.
I think that Putin understands that once Trump is inaugurated on January 20, this will be a different game.
Yeah.
Because Trump is just at least more a decisive politician, right?
Yeah.
He wants to do and achieve something, whereas the Biden administration, I don't even think that they have any plan what to do.
Yeah.
They have no objectives. I think that it's not even...
Would you like, please?
He's calling
give me
time out.
Yes. I'm very grateful for what American nation and your corrupted politician gave to Ukraine. It helps us to survive. It helps us to protect and stop Russian invasion movement further to the west.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, but as one American military expert said, it's always too late and it's always too little.
Yeah.
So you're saying more?
I think in 2022, in the summer, it was a real chance to beat Russians.
Yeah.
If we will get...
And America didn't help when it was most important to help.
I think, but there's a lot of, and this is, we kind of talked about this a little bit last time before, there's a lot of Americans that are saying, why are we involved in that? Do we have anything to do with that? Like,
Yes.
why?
Yes.
Well, what do we have to do with it?
First of all, I think you have a rivalry now who try to set up kind of multipolar world. And China is a rivalry. And if United States of America wouldn't react on the Putin's invasion to the Ukraine, so then Chairman Xi Jinping, I don't know how you pronounce it in English.
That's pretty good.
That was good.
He will invade Taiwan immediately.
Taiwan.
Yes.
So-
and then
Yes.
half of the chips will be gone out of the market. It will be all under China.
But because the Biden administration dragged this war or drags this war forever, I think that actually it started working against America and the so-called collective West.
Yeah.
Because of the close cooperation between Russia, North Korea, Iran, and China. I think it actually, and come on, the West doesn't even produce enough ammo, or it produces less ammo per day than the Ukrainians should on the other side, right? The West doesn't have resources for any significant ground war. We just don't, right?
Yeah.
The West is weakened. The Western societies say, "Oh, we don't want to have any."
It was
other
Francis
war."
Well, we got women in our military.
I know, but now imagine China goes after Taiwan. The West will have nothing to offer in the war. Maybe America a little bit, but then what's the mindset of the people? Do we really want to have another war after this war?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, with Trump, Xi might not go after Taiwan, but with Kamala, I'm sure that he would have.
Yeah.
But if we
Believe you.
are as weak as you're talking about, what is if they
I'm
want
not
to?
talking you're wicked.
Oh,
I'm talking about the Biden administration
Yes.
and their Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, right? First, they didn't have any idea, any plan how to react at the beginning of the war. Then they started giving some help to the Ukrainian state and the army, but it was always too little, too late. Even liberal generals like General Hodges, right? He's a Democrat, right? But even he kept criticizing the Biden administration for just doing too little and too late. And now I don't think that Ukraine can reclaim any of the lost territories because first, there are no people in Ukraine anymore who can be drafted, and second, the West just doesn't have the resources. And shooting in Russia, Sanych is of a different opinion. I don't think that it will help the Ukrainian people.
Probably because I'm living there.
well, there's that.
And you are just...
But air defense, this is what Ukraine needs now. To
You
protect
can't win the war with air defense only.
But win the war, what does it mean to win the war?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Nobody has ever defined this term, the victory in this war. Reclaim all the lands, all the way to Japan. That's absurd. That's impossible.
And that's where I think as an American, if I knew a definition of what victory looked like, I would be more supportive because I know, okay, there's a beginning and an end, and I can kind of see the vision of why we're doing what we're doing. Objective, but I get BS from our Congress. I get BS from Biden. I get everything we hear to me just sounds like a load of and then all the fake videos and stuff that come out of war and stuff. It just all the information that it feels like just a large propaganda war from what I hear from my own leaders.
Well, it's propaganda everywhere.
Which is why I don't believe it all. Which is why it's like, that's why I want to be done with the war. I want to be out of there. It all sounds like propaganda to me. I don't want to support this.
The first victim of any war is truth, right?
Yes.
And it's on all of the sides.
Yeah.
But you could have asked me, and I would have told you.
That's why I love talking to you guys about this.
Victory for me, I remember the first 1 week into the war in Ukraine, me and my other elder were bringing stuff to Ukraine, whatever we could gather, and we talk about, what could that possibly be? And we said, maybe keeping the ports on the Black Sea, because that actually will mean a lot to Ukraine and Ukrainian economy after the war. To be a landlocked country, that's a completely different story.
Right.
But to keep the ports, and they have.
Yeah.
And I think that this is already a huge win. Only that people don't remember what was happening 2.5 years ago when they were talking about where the Ukrainian partisans will fight and how will they be supplied with Kalashnikovs, right?
Again, you just missed this thing. War began in 2014, and Obama was the president.
Yes.
And he didn't do any repercussion for breaking the international law by Putin, and he has nothing.
Yes.
So
No sanctions, nothing.
So there were 8 years of Russia invasion and pushing into taking
10 years.
More 10 years.
10 years. Yeah.
Bush started with Bush?
It started in 2014.
14 in March.
Okay, so
In March.
Obama. So you're just saying...
To now, it's 10 years. But I was saying from Obama to Trump,
I see.
you had 8 years, 2008 to 2016, where no one was doing anything.
Yes.
Trump kind of creates a little bit of a buffer.
Yes, and actually, it's his administration supply Ukraine with the javelins, which were very helpful when we defended Kyiv and defend our lands.
Yes.
Other munition and weapon, and it helps a lot.
So for you, San Sanych, what would you say would be a reasonable objective to say this is a good peace, terms of peace? What was the objective? I mean, is it drive them completely back to where they were prior to 2008?
You're asking about dream or about just kind of reality, how I see it? Or
Yes,
my
I like
dream?
both.
Both. I like
Yeah.
both.
Both.
What would your dream be? And
No, please don't ask him about the dream because
Oh,
I
gotta
want
hear
to
it
know now. I want to know now. What's your dream?
Yeah, I think so. It was very.
you will have to cut it out.
It was very possible to.
Oh, by the way, we're live.
the
There's no
point.
cutting. There's no
Yeah,
cutting.
this is
like
So
a live
There's
live.
No cutting.
they gonna
Yeah.
find you after
This
this.
is live.
I think if collective West and the leader of collective West, United States of America, they set the goal to pursue it. It was just very possible to achieve this goal, to bring Russia to such a state when they would like to have a bread. Like when, maybe you don't remember, you are young, when Soviet Union collapsed. It's just Soviet people, they just were so glad to have this chicken,
Right.
any food, and they were ready exchange their nuclear arsenal for the food. I think it was an achievable goal, and it was possible if reaction from the Western countries under the leadership of the United States were decisive. It was possible to just completely lock this country out of any trade of their goods and just bring them to the state when the populace would need bread more than this war. When I heard, it's just Putin, but the Russian people are so good. I grew up in Russia. Yeah, I have first-hand experience how good they are. Something like 86% of Russians, they support this war. And again, it's a tricky thing how
Propaganda.
Well, it's hard to tell because who does the polls?
The polling.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I mean. Like,
Well, polls don't work here. I'll tell you that.
do they do polling there as well as they do it here?
I mean, in Russia, everybody knows how to answer.
The
What's
right
the
answer.
proper answer,
Right.
To
Right.
questions like this.
Yeah. Recently, one guy gave wrong answer on the poll in the street. He got 6 years in the prison. And lady, doctor, pediatrician, she has a client with a kid, and the kid was unruled completely. And doctor just made a comment, so maybe you can, to mom, maybe you can do something. And she said, "Oh, he is missing his father who was killed in Ukraine." And she asked what he was doing in Ukraine, and he said he freed Ukrainians from the Nazis. And doctor just clarified. So he was in Russian army in territory of Ukraine. She said yes. So doctor said so he was just illegal target, and he was killed with that. This client report and this doctor, 69 years old lady, got 5.5 years in prison.
Wow.
So
Right.
But Bubu, why from Poland is this Ukraine war with Russia so important for like you and your church and what's going on in Poland?
Well, church-wise, I cannot leave San Sanych out there in the cold, right? And we have friends there, which is more than brothers and sisters, just right.
yeah.
So that's one thing from the Christian perspective. The more so from it means a lot to them. I think that all the visits that we pay to them mean much more than even the salt and the gas that they received from us, right? Because it's the fellowship. I mean, apart from the worship, the fellowship is the most important foundation of our lives, right? Even the getting together and just venting, like men sometimes do.
Like we're doing right now.
No, it's because it's a difference between going into depression and continuing.
Yes.
And not just surviving, but even thinking about the future.
Right.
That's one thing. From my Polish political perspective, basically, the past 1,000 years of the history taught us that, we have to work together with Ukraine because without Ukraine, there is no Poland and vice versa. We still keep fighting against each other.
Yeah.
Because we
Like a
are
siblings in the family.
dumb enough.
Yeah.
It's like Girardian thing, right?
right.
But from the geostrategic point of view, we need them, they need us.
Helpful.
Like 80% roughly speaking, of all aid that goes into Ukraine comes through Poland. That's the most natural way to supply them. But on the other hand, they are kind of a buffer for us
Yeah. Right.
Because Russia's focused on Ukraine and not Poland right now.
right now, which
You'll be next.
So,
Well,
so
that's
yeah,
true.
that's
That's what I was
right.
gonna get
So, I think if an American came and visited, your church and your church in Poland, probably more Ukraine than Poland, I think they'd probably walk away a little depressed and a little like, wow, this is frustrating. The politics that you have with your own government, the war, it might just come across as like, wow, there's just nothing good happening here.
No. He will get out. Thanks God, so I'm American. He will be just.
Thank God I'm
inspired.
American.
Yeah.
Well, my question for you is like, what good gospel post-mill stuff is happening with your church, and what's the good that's going on with your ministry, and what's going on in Ukraine? And the same for you in a second.
So my culture mostly shaped by the Orthodox and Catholic churches.
Yeah.
And Protestants, it's very, very, very tiny percentage, marginal, on the margins. Before the World War II, which started, as you know, in 1939, in the west part of the Ukraine, there were around 500 historical Protestant churches, reformers.
500 churches.
Yes.
In Western Ukraine.
Yes.
Okay.
Lutheran and Reformed.
Yes.
And it's interesting when we talk about these persecutions, like in Belarus now, what communists did, they start to persecute, they completely eliminate Reformed and Lutheran churches. Completely.
In Ukraine.
In Ukraine.
Why?
Because
They were independent of the state.
No. Because our version of Christianity is not just like a hide away from the world. We don't have anything in common with these people. Our view, so we will change the society.
Yes.
Because God is good and He gave us all the material, all the thoughts, brains to change this society.
Yes.
That's right.
And so it's a threat to communism.
Yes, and it was threat for communists.
Unlike Orthodox and Catholic.
It's
No
just
threat.
Ideal thing for Orthodox. Again, I'm talking about churches in Ukraine and Russia. Run away from the world, dig the hole in the ground, and stay there and pray. It's ideal. So
It's retreatist.
It sounds like American churches.
Monastery life.
Yeah.
It's just kind of ideal. It's the best possible thing.
And so it's not a threat to communism.
Yeah, you can.
Well, it's more among the Eastern Orthodox. I think that the Roman Catholics are still different because they have the City of God by Augustine, right?
A little bit more.
It's we might call it a millennial eschatology, but nevertheless, it's more like connected with real life.
Yeah.
And Eastern Orthodoxy, I think it's more focused on the future.
And icons.
That too.
San Sanych, talk to us about, though, kind of piggybacking on Gabe's question, how are the churches doing? How are the CREC churches doing? And
How many are there first?
Yeah, how many are in Ukraine?
5.
Five.
It was 6, but 2 churches in Rivne.
Yeah.
We merged together since the full invasion in February 2022.
Okay, so 2 in the same town merged together. So 5. How are they doing?
Again, with God's help, and which we got. I'm talking about the spiritual support. I'm talking about fellowship, and I'm talking about these material things which we got from our brothers and sisters from CREC.
Yes.
We are quite prosperous, even we had pretty strong impact into the country, and especially in the beginning of the war. Yeah. I give you just example. Our brother, Dr. Daniel Doolittle, so he was interested to help. He flew. He came to the Ukraine and he asking how
He's
he can
an
help.
American doctor.
Yes, he's an American doctor from CREC Church. And so it was tremendous need of tourniquets. Everybody just were driving crazy about this because our army wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Because of this political
your president.
Naivete. Yeah, I can't say anything bad in my president or my government because I get permission to cross the border to leave the country and came here under the pretext. So I will advocate Ukraine.
Let's call him Justin Trudeau.
Okay. Okay. So this Justin Trudeau, he was so naive, and he just ran into the office of president with this kind of message: "I will stop this war. I will stop this war. This war is just because former president got rich because of that." So when he became a president, he kind of withdrew our troops from the line
Right.
back into the not ready position, just in empty field.
Okay.
So then he moved tank division, which stay in the border with Belarus in the north. He just moved them out. So he moved out all the divisions of anti-missiles cannons.
Yeah.
In nearby Kyiv, we have airport, Hostomel. It was stationed there, this anti-aircraft guns.
Yeah.
So he moved out there. There were heavily mined connection between the Crimea and the Ukraine, independent Ukraine. It was heavily mined. There are only 9 bridges. They were mined heavily. So he unmined this thing.
Wow.
Not him personally. He doesn't know how to do it. He's a comedian.
Sure.
Yeah.
Justin Trudeau doesn't know how to do much anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. And he just gave a command, and he just closed all the rockets programs which we had.
Yeah.
So actually, Ukraine it was a very good industrial improved republic in the Soviet Union, and all the rockets which we shoot in space was made in Ukraine. And we still have these scientists and engineers who can handle this and assemble this stuff. And with the previous president, he started to run this program of rockets of like a pretty long range, like over the 300 kilometers.
Yeah.
But then Justin Trudeau, he just said, no, we don't need it. And he completely stop financing this thing.
There's gonna be a bunch of people that like later on listen to these.
You got to listen to the whole thing.
interview. They'll be like, "Wait, Justin Trudeau did what?"
Yes, that's exactly right.
Go back and listen to the whole show.
Sanich's got to get home.
So how we have at least one church that is like in the line of fire.
Yes.
How is that church doing?
Mykolaiv.
Yes.
City Mykolaiv, it's an industrial city and shipyards. It was. Yeah. 450,000 people live there before the full-scale invasion. And when this full-scale invasion started, the Russians badly wants to occupy the city, just badly. They try it. So they come so close so they can shoot from regular cannons.
Yes.
Shoot to the city. And they didn't make a difference. They shoot anywhere. Like they kill their mom and kid, and they will just say, "Hey, they work for the army."
Yeah.
Whatever.
Completely indiscriminate.
Yes.
Yeah, with civilians and women and children. Yes.
Well, actually, the initial fighting was maybe only a couple of miles away from the building where our church meets for worship.
Wow.
So this is the area where most of our people live.
Yeah.
And some of them actually took part in the fighting.
So then, by the initiative from Joint East European Project, CRC churches gathered money for purchasing 2 vehicles, one for Bogomil and one for our church. And as soon as we purchased this, I found the food where I can find it, parked the car, parked the vehicle, and came there. At that time, it was only one bridge, more or less under the Ukrainian control, but it was on fire control from Russians. And I came and brought this food, and Volodya, he did outstanding job. Yeah. He refused to move out from Mykolaiv because it was obvious, and I think it
was his people.
Well, but he was one of very few ministers of any kind that actually stayed in the city and ministered to the people, and this is why the church is has tripled since the beginning of the war.
He cleaned the basement of the building and make it a bomb shelter.
Yeah.
He provide water, he provide sewage system, and then we brought the food. And he said, I'm so proud of our denomination because we are only one church in the whole city.
The only church in Mykolaiv.
Who got the food.
Oh, got food. Okay, yeah.
Who got the help from their brothers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because it was so scary.
Yeah.
It was dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And
a few miles away.
Yeah.
And they've been getting bombed.
Yes.
You sent pictures a few times, and
They have been bombed, shelled for
Rockets.
the first 6 months of the year, almost of the war, almost every day.
every day.
4 days only without bombing.
Wow.
First 500 days of this full-scale invasion, only 4 days they didn't have.
Okay.
Yeah, and Pastor Miketa, he got wounded twice.
Twice.
by shrapnels.
The pastor got wounded twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So how many? You said it's tripled in size.
Yes.
How many people are worshiping there?
Well, 80 people before the war, now 250, even
Praise God.
Wow.
Recently.
70, now 80. And again, he spent time with the people in this, sometime 24 hours, sometimes 19 hours, the people stay because until the air siren attack.
They're in the bomb shelter.
Yes. So he ministers to them, he sings songs, he pray for them, he read the Bible.
Yeah.
And so they just...
He's being a pastor to these people.
Yeah, and they start to come into the church.
And are people becoming Christians?
Yes. Yes, I ask this specific question and I communicate with the people. I know language.
Yes.
And I ask him honest questions. How many of these people rise Christians?
Yeah.
You know this term, rise Christians.
Yeah, rice Christians. Yeah,
Yeah.
The ones that show up for the food. For the food. And so for the moment, they'll go through the motions, but not really.
Yeah. And he said, so he's sure about more than 90% it's real Christians now.
Real Christians now.
Yeah.
Well, if he wanted to go, the rice way, he probably would be
thousands.
Right.
Not thousands.
If he was just giving it away and a sort of welfare kind of thing, then it would be even bigger.
Yeah.
But he's actually discipling these people. He's actually
he's vetting them, he's screening them, he's discipling them.
Yeah.
And it's easy to see whether people come and want to hear the word
want the
preached
food.
or just the food.
Yeah.
Right?
So Ukraine is very sympathetic to your churches. You guys don't have a problem there in the Ukraine.
We gain respect from our governments and our presence in the social, in the society. It will be interesting. So we count Orthodox, Greek Catholic, Roman Catholic churches. We have all kinds of Jewish organizations and synagogues. The biggest amount of help came through the Reformed and Lutheran Church to Ukraine.
okay.
Yeah, so this is
Reformed
the
and
fact.
Lutheran.
Yeah.
And are there other Reformed denominations included in that, or are you just thinking of CREC?
Yes, there are other denominations.
Yeah. Wow.
At least two.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Wow.
So I just understand, trying to make, because I asked about the idea of, why should we be involved? Or a lot of Americans are trying to think that. And you brought up the idea that this is kind of a proxy war in one sense for Americans. That if Putin decides to come in and take Ukraine, now China's going to say, we're taking Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
Taiwan goes, we have a problem now.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we don't decide to be strategic with our planning and making sure Ukraine doesn't get taken, then China will say, okay, they're stronger than what we thought.
Yeah,
So really,
we should think twice before we.
so are you saying that the idea of America's tenacity is being tested in the Ukrainian war? Is
Yes.
that okay?
Yes,
So
exactly. It's
that's
a challenge.
helpful.
It's a challenge of the world. Before the war, it was an ultimatum from Putin. NATO, you should move back to the borders 1997, which means he tried to control, like in Yalta agreement between Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill.
Yeah, basically it was about, moving back to the Iron Wall, right? So all the Soviet satellite states would be
Under Russian control.
neutral, but then under the control of Moscow.
But not part of NATO.
And they should give up.
We are like a second-rate
Yeah.
NATO
I
members
understand.
anyway.
I understand.
right?
But that was part of his
Yeah.
argument.
Yeah, well, basically, he didn't want to have any NATO presence east of Germany.
Right. Okay. Got it.
So, how do you, we got a little bit of time left here, but how would you be ministering to Christians in Russia if you were a pastor in Russia?
I got a question after that too.
In Russia,
Yeah, if
I
you
mean,
if you were a pastor in Russia, what would be your emphasis?
that's a theoretical question.
Yes.
That's a what?
A theoretical question.
Yeah.
Well, we got pastors in the
we
CREC
do.
in Russia.
We do.
We have one church in Russia, right?
We do.
Or two?
1 and 25.
We have
1.5.
1.5.
1.5. Okay.
Oh, this is a serious one. I'm
It
sorry.
is a very serious question.
Yeah,
Because, you know,
yeah. Please.
on the one hand, well, I personally, because the choice is like you either become an informant, which you don't want to compromise, right? Because we can see the consequences of churches, Christians compromising under communism.
Yeah.
Even like 2 generations later, it's never good. And actually, in most of the cases, it leads to liberalism of any kind.
Yeah.
So you don't want to compromise, but
Did
then,
here in America.
but then it's like, I probably would focus on just teaching the Bible.
Teaching the Bible.
Because, you know what? Teaching the Bible, it will change the mindset of the people, the hearts of the people, and it will teach them, help them actually also to process mentally, emotionally what's happening among them. Because if the gospel is about the faith, right, which is trust, we want to build trust among each other. So that, you know, I don't need even to say anything to San Sanych. I can just look into his eyes and we understand each other, right? Without saying too many words. I think that preaching the gospel, even without much application, I would say, already builds this bond between the people and changes their mindset. And then, you know...
But it seems like you can't remove application. Because if you go and preach the gospel and you tell your people, hey, look,
but, you know,
if you love your people and the Russian government comes after you, you need to die for your people.
And that's what I probably would like to do, but you know, nobody knows.
It's only theoretical.
But you know, you want both to. You don't want to expose them to unnecessary danger. Right?
There's also like a conscious,
because this other side is no compromise for sure.
Yeah.
But no compromise means not working, not cooperating with whatever kind of the regime. But then not exposing people to unnecessary danger. That's also a kind of thing, because if they kill us all, I know God can raise the dead, right? And this is what happened in many other places. But I would teach the Bible, grow strong community so that people trust one another, and just wait for the opportunity to hit back.
So
when it actually makes sense.
There's a point at which there are options that are not compromise.
Yeah.
That are biblical.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point you're making. And you can't make that decision if you're not in those shoes.
Yeah.
Whereas there may be obedience would sometimes be, I'm going to defy the government and I may get shipped off to Siberia. But other situations may be, it's like Elijah and
Obadiah.
Obadiah. Obadiah is inside Ahab's court hiding the prophets. And apparently keeping his head down a little bit more.
Well, you know, my grandfather, during World War II, they were hiding Jews, even though it was illegal, and they could have been killed, right, for this. Then under communism, he spent almost a year in prison because he wanted to keep some of the grain actually to have something to sow in the field and then harvest.
Yep.
Almost a year in prison. So, you know, yes, as much as you want to avoid conflict with people like this, I mean, sooner or later you will hit the wall and you will have to basically say what you have to say and then count on God. And
you have a very soft version of communism in Poland. I see. If you hide the grain, you will be killed. If you pick up 3, how do you call this? I knew this word. Just
like sheaves.
three
Ears.
separate
Ears.
three separate grain, wheat grain
Bundles.
Yeah. So you're dead.
But that's because once you compromise openly, I mean your credibility is gone, right? And then you are of no encouragement, no use for any other people. San Sanych has this slide, this poor girl, Ukrainian girl who says, "Oh, my father died as a hero, but I wish he weren't a hero, but my father." Actually, she is an 11-year-old girl that doesn't know.
Yeah.
I think it's better for her to have a dead father who is a hero than a live father who is a compromiser, a coward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
I know it's tragic sometimes, but
As I'm hearing you talk, one of the things that's interesting is you keep bringing up trust and establishing that as the foundation for reformation. And I think listening to you, it's interesting, the train of thought in America. It's like, well, we just go fix it right now. We can just go, right? We're not in it, right? We just go, hey, just stand up, and all of a sudden everybody will follow you. And it's like, well, it doesn't quite work like that. There's you guys are saying there is, if I'm hearing you correctly, there is a process that you see that is fruitful by creating first a trust with the people to trust each other that then develops from there and builds on top of that so that you have some sort
and then you can do this.
and then you can do that.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? That's what I think a lot of us miss.
And I want to add in
Because we're so like we do this when it comes to even the abortion stuff. We are so like all or nothing all the time, and it's not being a compromise. It's like no, you don't understand. Your baby can't run a 100-yard dash.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I want to add back in what San Sanych said earlier: gratitude.
Yeah.
And
Thankfulness.
I mean, it's interesting. The gospel goes out in the first century under the regime of the Roman Empire.
Yep.
And Paul doesn't say, here's how to build your militia.
Or Molotov cocktails.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. Yeah. Molotov cocktails.
Yeah.
House codes.
He's like, you need to make sure your family is in order. Full of gratitude.
Be thankful always.
Yeah, be thankful always. Make sure you're worshiping together. Don't neglect the gathering together of the saints, as hard as that might be.
Rejoice. Again, I say rejoice.
Yeah. Build that community.
Yeah.
Don't let divisions pull you apart.
That's right.
But that is a recipe for when you've built that community over time.
That's right.
Of trust and gratitude and worship that is going to be ready to stand up.
And then, because later there were the martyrs, right?
Yes.
But by the time they knew what they were sacrifices their lives for.
Yes.
Right?
Their people, their gospel and their people.
Yeah.
Because they had laid the foundation in their people that they knew.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how do you build that trust? What does that look like? I mean, from week to week in sermons. I mean, if you got to
go to church on Sunday morning, I would say.
that's
Serve
first.
people as much as you can.
Do what?
Serve people as
Serve
much
people.
as you can. Like this Pastor Vladimir Mikita from Mykolaiv.
Yes. Yeah.
How it comes so from 70 now it's 300 people in the gathering in his church.
It's one of the think about that. I mean, this is one of the largest churches in the CREC.
Yeah. Well.
Compare in states.
No. Seriously, but a lot of CREC churches in the states are 100 people. Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying one of the largest. I mean, it's, top 20 or something.
Okay, but then you need to also, after you go to church, you get together with your friends.
Stay with people, with the men.
Yeah,
You have good time.
fellowship.
You fellowship. You drink. You
smoke.
You smoke?
Well, I'm not allowed to smoke here. Right?
Not.
I'm sorry.
It's our landlord.
This-
I'll
the
give you his
landlord-
email
the
address.
landlord's a
You
communist.
sing.
You sing.
Right?
Yes, you
You
sing.
tell stories.
Yes.
Sometimes, you have fun. Sometimes you talk about serious business.
Yeah.
Because this creates, connections and trust and friendships. And without this, I think we become very easy targets for any kind of regimes.
From my personal observation, when we have conferences in Ukraine, and thanks God for sending us people like Doug Wilson, Toby Sumter, Peter Lightheart, James Jordan, in every conference, all the ministers come together.
Yes.
And it's as important when after the lectures we sit together, we talk,
Yes, I know.
and we have a fellowship,
Yes.
and it's important.
Every evening is like this.
I remember. I mean, I went over and spoke for the youth conference a number of years ago. It's been too long.
Yeah,
but
it's an answer to the Knox question. How you build the trust? You just talk with people. You serve them.
yeah, you teach the Bible,
Yeah.
and then there's fellowship,
Yes.
and you build
And
that community.
when they experience difficulties, make sure so you are stay close,
Right.
Yeah.
Not way behind,
Yes.
but close to them, shoulder
You
to
know,
shoulder.
I'm saying this not to brag, just an example. Let's say it's not me, but someone else. So the attack was on Thursday, I think. Sunday, we gathered for the church. I exchanged a look with my fellow buddy, police officer, a ruling elder from the church, and we know what we want to do. We just want to get across the border and visit them as soon as possible,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and then
And
you-
you know, we weren't really heroic at that time, maybe stupid a little bit. But you know,
why little?
we get over the border, we meet with the guys, and it was the most joyous moment of the life. Well, apart from the wedding, right? But
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, they came.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody cares. So it's
Somebody
not
cares.
just like, you know, I know the power of the prayer,
Yes.
but I think it needs to follow with the power of the fellowship.
It's like Paul's letters where he says, "I'm yearning to be with you face to face."
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
at this moment, I can write to you, but I can't wait to be with you face to face.
Amen.
And you went. So you were talking about going across to Ivano-Frankivsk.
Yeah, that was the
Rivne,
first visit.
Ivano-Frankivsk,
Yeah.
Rivne,
Yeah, Rivne. Yeah.
Dunaevce,
Yeah.
And you know,
finally Mykolaiv.
all the guys, serious guys, and they burst out with tears, right?
Yeah.
When they
Beautiful.
opened the door.
Yeah. I'm feeling it right now.
It was a little bit embarrassing, but
Yeah.
it was like genuine, right?
Yeah,
True.
right.
And
How long did it take you guys to get there? What's the trip to get across the border?
It was an interesting thing. Good question. It was 40 kilometers line. People stay on the ground on the road to the Europe. Mostly, absolutely biggest number. Women and children.
Yeah.
And it was few cars which goes from the west to Ukraine.
Right. Yeah. Very
That
few.
time.
well, because all the cars were diverted
Yeah.
Yeah.
from the border back into Poland because
Yeah.
our authorities didn't want to let anybody through. But
So how did you get through?
Yeah.
well, I told you the buddy is a police officer.
Oh.
So
Yeah,
he
yeah.
showed his badge,
Yeah.
explained the reason of our trip, and they said, "Okay, go."
Okay. Wow.
Every time when we came to Mykolaiv and brought things, again, we unload the minivan, and then all these people were love to talk.
Love to
Just
talk.
to talk, yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of like they live in an island
Yes.
under the shelling,
Yeah.
and somebody from the Materik
Yeah.
came to them and visited them, and it's
I'm thinking about. This doesn't like even really compare. So forgive me. This is not the same thing at all. But I think for some, maybe God gave us a teeny taste during our COVID
Oh yeah,
when we're all shut down.
Yeah.
And not allowed to open businesses. We're told not to worship, not to gather with God's people, or if you do, you have to stand 6 feet apart and have a face mask on. That's useless and just makes things worse.
Yeah.
And then you gather suddenly, like you haven't been gathering for a while, and you suddenly see other people.
Oh, it was amazing.
We did that in church, and we were only not meeting for like 3 weeks or 6 weeks or something like this. It was and then we did drive in, and then we were together again, and it was like, that was like 6 weeks was nothing, and it still felt like, my people.
Yeah.
And then I remember when we did the first Fight Laugh Feast conference.
Yes.
It was in October or September that fall. About 900 people came from all over, and many of them are coming from places that the churches were still closed down. They had not been in church for weeks, months, or had masks on. We have 900 people in an indoor soccer field with no masks, and people were just like looking like. But I think there's maybe just a teeny taste of that. What you're talking about is like being face to face, being in person, singing, worshiping God together. It matters enormously.
What is work and stuff like in those environments? If you got, how's it taking place? You guys just going to work every day, or is it days you can't work, or how's the economy working?
It's getting depressive. Like I give you an example. I have a free access to the military hospital. And, you talk with the guy who lost one hand and both legs, and his wife left him. And, it's really hard, and his friends killed. It's really hard to kind of encourage this person, just kind of promise him pie in the sky. And it's very difficult. It's difficult. It's require your emotional strength. It's require kind of like boldness to serve in this environment.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, many women run away with the kids and understand and support this
Abroad.
Yeah.
to the western
To get out of
from
the
Ukraine.
harm's way.
Yeah, because it's such a depressive thing when you hear the siren,
Yeah.
air attack siren, and when you hear these explosions, and like it's not about just me. I every day watch news which provide how many people killed and etc. And you every day see this, even in these pictures. It didn't give you a full sense.
Yeah.
But when you came in the front line and you just talk with the guys who stay in trenches, and the water just goes up above their knee, and it's cold, and they stay under the open and fire, and it's just unbearable difficult.
Yeah.
And like I'll give you example testimony if you wish. Our pastor Sasha Pavlyuk, you know him.
Yes, I met Sasha.
Yeah, he is now serving as military chaplain in the army.
He's a military chaplain.
He's been drafted.
He was our CREC
pastor.
He's been drafted.
Yes.
So he's a military chaplain.
Yes, and
On the front lines.
Yes, and he said first 2 months we talked with him. First 2 months, I think I will go nuts. I think I will just lose my sanity.
Wow.
It was so difficult, and he's told me so. I start to see many Christian doctrines and interpretations of Bible a little bit different now.
Yeah. In what way?
Yeah, like what?
Like what? The guys come to you and just said, okay, please, Father. They call us Father anyway.
Yeah.
Pray for us. We will go into for reconnaissance.
Yeah.
And he prayed for them.
Yeah.
And all of them killed.
Yeah.
And there were many witnesses who see. So he prayed, and just it doesn't help.
Right.
It didn't help.
Yeah.
So how you explain these things?
Right.
And a positive thing, like the man who was on the edge of his sanity, soldier.
Yeah.
He just said, okay, I will run away. I just can't stay no more.
Yeah.
I will run away. And Sasha said, okay, we need to talk and pray, and let us go just relaxing, fishing. And they had a small lake, and the guys everywhere goes there and try to catch something, and they didn't catch anything. But then when he come with this guy, they came, and this guy he just catch the real big fish, and they bring it back, and everybody, wow, look at what we should do. We just should take chaplain.
The pastor, the pastor gets us a good fish.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Jesus catches the fish.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you think that there's a couple questions. How much time do you guys have? I don't know what your time.
All the time.
Okay.
May I add something?
Please,
to what San Sanych
please.
said?
Yeah.
And it connects to what Toby said. It is so easy in under circumstances like this to be fully immersed in the immediate, right?
Right.
What's happening around you, and there is no single person in Ukraine that has not lost anybody close, a relative or a friend in the war, right? It's so easy. I think this is why, just like in COVID, and probably even more so important, that our churches never closed. The first thought was to get together, pray together,
Right.
commune together. Because, it's not just getting together with one another. We believe that it's, meeting with God, but it also reminds us that, what's happening right around us, the immediate, is not the ultimate reality, right?
Yeah.
There is like what we could call the meta-reality above us,
Right.
to which we actually belong.
Yeah.
And I think that it really helps people, even mentally, to process everything that's happening around them. The reminder that the war, the atrocities, the losses, that all the tragedies, that's not the ultimate reality. That's not the only reality that exists.
Right.
But there is something beyond it, And this is what gives them hope to continue and survive. They keep taking care of the families and the friends.
Yeah.
Right.
When we rent the church building, it looks like a church. It was a Reformed church built by the Dutch guys from Netherlands to help Reformed church in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And we rent this building for a while. We didn't close. We didn't miss any Sunday during this COVID insanity. And every Sunday we have newcomers, especially in military uniform or wounded from hospital, who ask for prayers.
Yes.
They didn't become a member of our church.
Yeah.
But they just they catch our attention, and all these pastors come together and pray for the soldiers, for the people who come to the church, and it's every Sunday, and few of them came, and we don't know, we can't trace their future.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, but just I think in that time they came and they got this encouragement.
Yes.
And funny thing, we use normal Christian calendar, Gregorian.
Okay.
Correct. And Orthodox Church, they use Julian calendar.
Yeah.
And it's a difference in the
Like Easter.
Easter's
different?
Easter and Christmas.
Oh, that's different too.
And during the COVID, this insanity, the government forbid to gather, probably like here.
Oh, yeah.
So we just ignore them. We do it.
Yeah.
So and we have really big feast of Easter.
Big Easter feast.
Yes, and then we came to the day when the Orthodox has Easter, and that all the churches were patrolled by the cars. So we opened the back door, and people one by one just come.
One by one.
Yeah, one by one. So
Is it? How long was your flight to get over here?
11 hours from Frankfurt to
it
2
was
hours from Warsaw.
2 hours from Warsaw to Frankfurt, 11 to Seattle, 1 to Spokane.
Yeah.
And 18 hours for me in train to get
To Poland.
to Poland.
Because the airports in Ukraine are closed.
Right.
So-
take the train.
So you get off the plane here in America. It has to be surreal for you.
No, it's tragic.
Tragic.
Because there are no smoking rooms at your
Well, again, we have a communist for at least.
Sorry, but we feel ourselves like a minority.
Yeah.
Oppressed people. It doesn't allow for us to smoke.
I understand that.
oppressed minority.
Oppressed minority. Yes.
You've been reading about a lot of oppressed
We
minorities.
need to be included in the DEI.
Yeah, the smokers have rights too.
Especially Christian smokers.
You guys are talking tonight on something, right?
Yes,
What are you talking about tonight? Same thing tonight? Or?
same thing tonight.
Okay.
And where are you talking?
At the Trinity Reformed Church
In Moscow.
in Moscow.
Okay.
Idaho.
Someone asked here earlier, what is it like? How does Russia treat its evangelicals there in Russia?
It was Soviet Union time, and the evangelical church appointed the pastor. So he led the worship, and during this week he was arrested. And the next Sunday they gathered, no pastor. They choose another one. And can you imagine this? This is surrealistic. You got this kind of honor to be a pastor of the church. You vote in, but so you will be arrested.
You're the next one.
Yeah.
The next one, and it happened. So it's how faithful Christians in Russia are treated now. That you may end up, if you say something against the war, you will end up in prison.
Right.
And there is also this law about foreign financing of organizations that operate in Russia.
Yes.
Which means that transferring financial help to Russia is very tricky and difficult, and might actually get our people there in trouble.
Right.
Because, Putin came up with this law. He said, it's a part of the war against terrorism. But actually, the first religious group that suffered from the law were the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay.
All the evangelicals, they clapped and they were happy.
And I told them, you will be next.
But you're next.
You're
That's
next.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you didn't say anything to protect this cult, it's cult in my
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But they're people.
Yes.
And they're persecuted for their convictions.
Right.
You should kind of help.
Right.
And if you don't, you will be next.
Yeah.
And it happened.
Lo and behold, that's exactly
I
what
wanted
happened.
to ask, did you guys watch Tucker Carlson's interview with Putin?
Yeah, that was up next. Oh, I gotta know.
And
So it started in 862. You want to hear the story again?
Can I before I want to preface it real quick because
I remember.
that's actually no. One of the things that I'm learning from listening to you, and I've heard it before, is that Americans seem to have a very short memory.
attention span?
Well, that too, but we don't have a historical memory at all. Very short one.
I will make you feel better.
Okay.
Well,
It's just
for
try to please
us, it's like really important what's happening in Ukraine right now because, this is a part of our lives.
Right.
We probably wouldn't care that much about a war in what?
Kenya.
In Indonesia.
In Kenya.
Right?
Yeah.
Or in Kenya. Did it make you feel better?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, kind of. But I mean, you're really not trying to make me feel better, though, are you? Well, I mean, but I would, especially if my brothers are there.
Oh yeah, that changes things.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And you guys are there and hearing your stories. There's a lot of political.
So of course we care.
Yeah, of course we care, but then we don't hear all of this all the time. Like we have between Fox, ABC, NBC, and then whatever you see online that's not been
Sorry,
filtered.
who mentioned Tucker Carlson?
I did.
Yeah.
It was me.
I should refute his claim. So there are persecutions into the Christians in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
It was just a ridiculous, stupid, unprepared thought.
Yeah.
There are no persecutions on the Christians in Ukraine.
Well, in a way, there are.
Oh, come on.
The Ukrainian government is going after the Russian Orthodox Church.
Of Moscow Patriarchy.
Well, yes,
because they are informant of the
Because they work with the Soviets.
with the Russian.
Yeah. I call them
Yeah.
Soviets.
Okay.
But you know what?
What?
Maybe it's not the wisest way to deal with the problem,
It's
right?
true.
Because they basically, what do they expect from the Russian Orthodox people in Ukraine?
They got
want
Russian
them-
in the name.
Yes.
Yes. No, they're tricky. They changed the name. Before they named Russian Orthodox Church in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Now they call Ukrainian Orthodox Church of Moscow Patriarchy.
Oh, right.
Well, but there are some
And
limits.
they often just kind of left out this last phrase of Moscow Patriarchy.
Right.
Ukrainian Orthodox
Orthodox.
Church.
Right.
Well, okay. San Sanych will get mad at me, but
Yes.
I'm used to that. Justin Trudeau
Yes.
has
Trudeau.
made a lot of stupid, really mistakes.
What do you expect from idiot?
I know. All this.
You're never going back to Canada.
All these language laws. That's absurd. Why not
Language
let-
laws.
Like that you need to speak Ukrainian if you want to live in Ukraine, even though Ukraine has been a Ukrainian-Russian dual bilingual country for centuries, right? Like whatever was the reason. Stupid,
Yeah.
dumb and stupid, because it basically plays into the Putin's narrative, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this how you say it?
That Ukraine is oppressive and tyrannical.
Because in a way, not to such an extent
Right.
as
I hear you.
the Russians do it to the Ukrainians, but in a way, yeah, it is.
Right.
It is why to force people to speak Ukrainian. Eventually, they will learn the language, but they were born speaking Ukrainian. Russian. They ask them, "Are you Russian or Ukrainian?" They say, I'm a Russian speaking Ukrainian."
Right.
And Justin Trudeau just doesn't want to recognize this fact,
Yeah.
because this is a very nationalistic project in a negative understanding of the term.
And Putin.
Bubu, how many Polak citizens speaks, let's say, in Russian? How many of them you have in Poland?
But we had
How you treat them?
we had we had a different
different history. Yeah.
But Putin, you're saying, uses that, though,
Yes.
to claim that he's the liberator.
Yes.
He's liberating
Yes.
the Russian-speaking Ukrainians who are being persecuted
yes.
by Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, but again,
it's
this
even
guy.
before it's even before it's stupid claim. My wife is Russian citizen. I'm living there.
Yeah.
My mother language is Russian. I'm Ukrainian who was born in northern Siberia.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yes, I do.
I can't speak Ukrainian really well. Nobody, never. And I live in a Western Ukraine,
Yes.
which is famous for their national claims.
Yeah, more drink for.
Even not once I was rebuked for my Russian.
Wait. The city of Ivano-Frankivsk,
Fill him up.
where we
It's
have one of our
another
churches.
stupid little Justin Trudeau.
I know. The local Justin Trudeau, the mayor of the city, came up with this brilliant idea that they have the language patrols in the streets, volunteers.
What?
And anybody who speaks Russian in the streets,
Get-
$80 of
You're kidding.
Fine.
fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not working, obviously,
doesn't
but
work.
that's
doesn't
the
work.
general idea. But
Right.
that's what I'm talking. If you fight somebody as shrewd as Putin, you need to be a little bit less dumb.
What do you expect from idiots? Bubu, you can't require. They're just mentally disabled. You just,
That's your president.
they are not believers. They don't have any values. They
But
don't have God.
you know what?
What do you expect from them?
Nevertheless, this is the narrative that some of the conservatives in America want to present, right? It's the Saint Vladimir Putin,
Saint
of
Vladimir
Moscow,
Putin.
New Constantine.
the last hope of the white Christian males, right, or something like this.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. I know.
He's just preach, preacher. Just do your
and
thing.
on the other hand, you have this liberal Justin Trudeau, which is true. He's a liberal.
Yeah.
That's why you call him Justin Trudeau,
Right.
right?
Right.
But
It's a nickname.
but it's more than about Putin and Justin, right? It's about our people there, and yes, the Ukrainian government is not the smartest when it comes to war propaganda and decisions like this, and the local initiatives. But
Let's say
this is
American
not-
church doesn't want to have a funeral for American soldier who was killed in action. How we will treat this pastor? How we will treat this church?
Wait, who doesn't want to have?
American church doesn't want to have a burial for a soldier, for American soldier who was killed in action protecting America.
Yeah.
How we will treat this church?
Well, it probably would depend on what the action was.
Okay, let's say Canadian Justin Trudeau give the order attack United States,
Idaho.
and Idaho,
Okay.
and this soldier was killed in this action,
Well, I would likely say that's no good.
and it's it.
Well, I mean, it'd probably depend on a lot of details, but I mean, if I would try to encourage and provide ministerial services for this
I
family.
know, but that's exactly what happened because this Russian Orthodox
Church of Moscow
priests
Patriarchate.
in Ukraine, operating in Ukraine, they refused to perform burials for Ukrainian soldiers.
Right. Okay.
One thing.
Even though they were their parishioners.
Right. Parishioners in their churches.
So, it's like,
Isn't that something that? I mean, I guess we're not all connected, but isn't that something that the churches should be like, shame on you? Isn't that something that churches can come together and say?
I think so. We just didn't know a little bit history of the Orthodox Church. It was completely eliminated. It was killed, all the priests, etc. Until when communists came to the power in 17, and then they had real persecutions on the church. They just robbed this church. They took all the precious things.
Right.
Then they sent all the priests to they killed them or sent to the Warsaw's Gulag. And then in World War II, Stalin need the support from the West. And one of the kind of condition was freedom of religion. And so he created this Orthodox Church. And every priest in this church was signing the paper about the cooperation with the KGB.
Yeah.
Everyone, every single
Do they
one.
still do that?
well, in a different way. It's like
But it's very much the same.
gentlemanly agreement.
the culture is built already.
Right.
But you are right. And,
I'm
Shame on
always
you.
right.
Shame on you.
well, shouldn't the churches get together and talk some sense? Well, but that's not happening. And a Christian burial for a Christian man, it's a normal thing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's the least you can do. Whether he's Russian Orthodox, Ukrainian Orthodox, Baptist, Lutheran, right?
Greek Catholic or Roman Catholic.
We do this because we are Christians, because we are human beings.
Right.
But obviously, the churches are not always helpful about trying to be peacemakers among nations, but because it's so profitable for churches, especially in the European context where the specific confession is connected with the national identity,
yes.
right? To just become departments of the state,
Interesting.
right? And then they are losing this, what's called the prophetic voice. They cannot address the authorities because they work for the authorities, right?
You have access
That's
to
why
TV,
we
to
need-
radio, but you don't have a prophetic.
Right. Yeah, you get access.
Yes.
There's a bunch of benefits.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's hooks. There's
Always.
chains that
Always.
come with
Yeah.
those benefits, which I think is. I mean, I think that was definitely at least a part of the thinking of the founders of America when they didn't have an established national
religion,
church.
yes.
They had seen how that worked in England, many of them, and said, "We don't want that." Maybe at the state level, maybe. Although that's all gone away, of course.
I was privileged to have a friendship with a man, priest from Russian Orthodox Church in Russia,
Yes.
who spent 7 years in a very strict, harsh conditions of a labor camp.
Yeah.
And when he was released in time of
Gorbachev.
he asked the current patriarch, how happened? So anybody who didn't sign the agreement to work for the KGB end up like me, but you got so much promoted.
Yeah.
How we will explain it? So and this patriarch, he couldn't just respond on this.
Right.
So they excommunicated him from the church.
Asked too many
Well,
questions.
once we start compromising, we cannot address the authorities, any kind of
Right.
authorities.
You can't-
And
you-
then we are basically castrated, right, as a church.
Yeah, that's right.
Christians.
Right.
Was
Wow.
there? So as far as the Tucker interview, you guys are watching that. A lot of people felt like it was refreshing in one way because it was a side of a story we had not heard, at least told from. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
Uh-oh. Bubu's about to come over there.
I know. So what else was it? What was so bad about that? What else was so bad about that interview?
He
Well,
wasn't
Putin
professional.
was bad because
He
Putin
wasn't
was just
professional.
boring.
Yeah.
Putin was boring.
Yeah.
Putin was boring.
But he controlled all the
and
interview.
Tucker was like sitting like a little
Yeah, you can say it. That's fine. Yeah.
something.
You're in America.
I mean,
you can say
he's
it. We
got-
got freedom of speech.
He's got MA in history, right? Tucker Carlson.
You
Okay.
Yeah.
And
For
he knew
sure
that he would
knows.
talk with
Yeah.
Putin about the history of Russia and Ukraine and the war. I mean, get prepared.
Right. Get
I
prepared.
think it was the worst interview that he has ever done. Putin controlled
all the
narrative,
Yes.
the framework, even though he was boring. And Tucker Carlson didn't even challenge him. Come on.
He wasn't
I
professional
am
as a journalist.
I am a proud Christian Polak, right?
Yeah.
Even though I'm only a quarter Polak. But nevertheless, when Putin starts talking about us Polacks starting World War II, and Carlson doesn't say nothing,
Yeah.
come on. It's a joke, right?
Okay.
I mean, we all know who started the war.
It's worse than joke.
Yeah.
All right. So I know you guys got to go do something. I want to end with kind of you guys giving last words of why you're here and kind of what you would expect to see from your brothers and sisters, the churches here. I'm sure we got 1,200, 13, almost 1,400 people who are watching right now. What can American churches do to bless you guys, our brothers who are over there in Ukraine right now?
We are already blessed, and I can't overstate the significance of prayers, financial help, and the fellowship, which my churches in Ukraine has via North American churches.
I want to mention now, and I'll mention it again before we're done, but it was mentioned earlier, JEEP Project is the Joint Eastern European Project, and it's a coalition of CREC churches that are particularly paying attention to the churches in Eastern Europe, and right now, particularly Ukraine. That's JEE and then project. So there's one P, JEEPproject.net. I've got it pulled up here on my page, but you can see pictures of the churches meeting and hear about the needs there. And if you're inclined to give additionally, that's a place where you can give. You can also find out about the churches there. You can also...
The needs are on there as well?
Yeah, the needs are there, so you know how to pray. I mean, even just sharing this website with your church or your church community and, or using it in your family worship or family prayers. I'm still thinking about earlier, San Sanych, you mentioned the Sasha in the chaplain.
Yeah.
Praying for those soldiers, and they all go out and get killed.
Yeah.
And I'm just putting myself in that position and thinking, there's a moment where only thing you can do in that moment is ask the Lord why he did that. Right? Like, Lord, your name is on the line.
Yeah.
Your glory is on the line. What?
Yeah.
Are you going to let your name be blasphemed?
Yeah.
Like this? But I mean, talk about teaching you to pray in that moment.
Sing some psalms coming to mind at that point.
This is
sure.
Where are you?
Yeah.
Why are you so far off?
This on you, Lord.
How long, O Lord?
How long,
Yeah.
oh Lord? Right.
Yeah.
I remember when I first time read imprecatory psalms
Yeah.
to the
Imprecatory
soldiers.
psalms. Yeah.
To the soldiers, and one of them, he just got this news. His wife, 2 children, and mother-in-law was killed when they tried to escape from Mariupol. So, and I read this. I said, "It's God's word."
This is God's word.
And they were just deeply touched. Even though they're culturally Christians, but they attended church and and Easter and Christmas, Orthodox Church, but just never heard something like that.
Right. God break their evil arms.
Yeah.
Tear out their teeth.
Yes.
Strike them down. Those who do, those wicked men, those evil men.
You're not speaking for, metaphorically at that point.
No. I mean,
you
there's,
really
I mean,
mean
there's,
that.
I mean, when David was praying that, and David was writing that, I mean, his life was in danger. It points, his.
Yeah, I don't think we're speaking metaphorically.
No.
I mean, his father-in-law was trying to kill him at various points, and people were plotting against his life. Yeah. So jeepproject.net, if you just search Joint Eastern European Project, you can also find it. That's what I did to find the website. But final encouragement to people,
Which people?
all of them.
All of them. Jesus loves you.
Jesus loves you.
No, I mean it.
Amen.
But he loves us in a very weird way.
In a very weird way.
None of us understand. That's why we need to trust him.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the thing. I think we should be grateful. So we have a Father in heaven. We should be grateful. So He redeemed sinners as we are.
Yes.
And we know from the studies and from the historical facts, so all of us may become a just evil person.
Yes.
Without God's grace.
Without God's grace.
Yes. And if God will move His protective hands from us,
Yeah.
who we will be.
Yeah. I also want to just mention here, and maybe we can get our producers to share the old episodes.
Yeah, with you guys on there. Yeah.
But we've heard from San Sanych and Bubu before. They've been in the studio before, back in 2016. Were you in the studio after that again?
No. Not, I don't think so.
We've had
one
you-
time before for the CRAC pastors.
Okay.
I think you came in and then you were mad that you couldn't smoke there, but then
But we've had you
wasn't.
also both on Zoom electronically over the years. But please, if you've enjoyed this conversation, I encourage you to go back and check out previous episodes. You can grab, if you have the app, the Fight Laugh Feast app, you can search on there, I assume, for San Sanych and Bubu. I don't know. Producers, make it so.
Yeah,
Make it
find that show and
here
bring
we
it
go.
to the forefront.
Make sure that we highlight those, make it searchable. But they've got some amazing stories. You've told us, I think, before on the show, how you came to the Lord. San Sanych.
Oh Lord, bring me to Him.
Yes.
Amen.
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 Really appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having
you.
us.
Yeah.
I mean, we have never
covered
had an
your
audience
prayers.
like this.
That
You've
just-
never had what? An audience like, oh, yeah.
We covered your prayers. Our pastor and chief musician drafted in the army, and he was in trenches first month or two.
Okay.
Then the officers figure out, so he knew 4 languages. He is gifted musicians. He's theologian.
Yeah.
And they just moved him to out of the first front line. So he served in the
Okay.
office in the stab, his headquarters.
Yeah.
So pray for him.
Okay.
So we have the soldier who badly ruined his health in this war.
Okay.
Because it's unhuman condition. His name is Victor.
Okay, Victor.
The
Pray
name
for
of
Victor.
name of this first one, Pastor Yuri.
Yuri.
He's really famous
Okay.
in Ukraine.
Okay.
He made all the chanting psalms, all 150.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, so he's a very gifted musician.
Yes.
And so in Ukraine, he's set the Psalms to chant tones.
Yes.
So that everybody can sing the Psalms.
Yes. Straight from Bible. It's
Yeah.
not paraphrase. It's
Right.
it's
Well, when you're in the trenches,
You need those.
I mean, like you need to be able to get right to the Psalms.
Yeah.
And okay, Pastor. So Yuri and Victor in particular, be praying
from
for
my
them
church.
from your church because they're
Sasha, pastor from church in Dunaevce.
Yeah.
The ruling elder from my church, Sergey.
yeah.
And brother from our church, just brother, young fellow who was trained and now he's moving with his troop into the front line.
To the front lines.
His name Andrei.
We have a dozen of our church members drafted.
A dozen of CREC church members have been drafted
Yeah.
and are in the Ukrainian army. Okay, be praying for them.
And 3 ministers
3 ministers.
in these 12.
Yeah, in those 12. Wow. Appreciate you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
If you're single, get married. If you're married, have some kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. You like that? Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is CrossPolitic.